I pray to God this works.
Baby Jesus.
Okay. Let's just figure this out. So this is Liam.
Yeah.
This is Matt. And this is myself. This is our first time doing an in-person recording. And I want you guys to be patient with us. And Liam's new to this as well, so we're going to spend a lot of time asking him important questions because this podcast is on strength, and as you can tell, the strongest man at the table is probably Liam.
Thank you very much. Recognition.
This is really exciting. I've been waiting to have it in person for a long time.
I'm actually going to turn my chair over here, and I'm really going to face you, Liam.
Oh, boy.
Would you mind telling everybody when the last time you did a strength workout was?
All right. I worked out at my house with my makeshift little Home Depot bucket.
Yes?
Squat rack last week.
And before that?
I did 6x6 squat.
Ooh.
Can you describe your Home Depot bucket squat rack?
All right, so there's 2 Home Depot buckets. There are DIY 5 2x4s at different lengths, so that there's a top one goes down. There's a little nook and cranny there for the barbell to go. Then there's another, and then there's a higher one so it can rack.
So do you use an actual barbell or you just have like a big log?
You've never done this, dude?
No.
You've never created a bro squat bucket?
I mean, I've created lots of things, but not
that. And then some nice, I glued them together. I didn't screw them together. They advised to screw them together.
They're just glued?
They're just glued.
Dude, awesome.
Then there's cement in the bucket.
You created the layers, you glued them together, then you put it up vertically in the bucket in the mixed cement, right?
Yeah.
So there's
That's
not
exactly how I
a
did
lot.
it.
There's not a lot of ballast there, like how it doesn't tip over on you.
I had it out we had 50 mile an hour winds a couple weeks ago.
Didn't move?
Didn't move.
Really?
And it's not even. I probably shouldn't say this, but it's on uneven ground.
Really?
It's
and you load that thing right up and squat with it.
I've done 225 on it.
What you're trying to say is we're going to put Rogue out of business.
Yep. It starts here, boys.
I'm sick and tired of the monopoly that some of these strength companies have. Like Rogue Fitness, thanks for making great equipment, but I'm not interested in your prices. And that's criminal. And you took advantage of this earlier in the year.
Well, I'll say for one, Rogue sources their steel in the United States. All their employees are in the United States, and I support that. To be honest with you.
I do. I get it.
So I'm not gonna badmouth Rogue. I think there's some other companies that are doing a great job. Rep Fitness, we both.
I love Rep Fitness
out of Denver.
Rep Fitness is affordable though, and so is Titan Fitness. I think does Rep get their equipment from the United States?
Their shop they do all their fabricating in Colorado.
MVP.
Yeah.
Titan Fitness though.
Titan probably gets their shit from China.
Taiwan.
Honestly. But you can't support that. But I don't know. I can't prove where that came from.
Or Rep Fitness could source from Liam. Now,
and you're right. I did at the beginning of COVID. I was out of a job and I needed some way to make money. And people started asking me to make pull-up bars. So I made pull-up bars from.
You made quality equipment.
Quality equipment from American Steel, made in Colorado, USA, with love and
tenderness.
A lot of tenderness. And shout out to everybody who bought one because that was really, really cool of you guys.
I would sit here inside the house just humming along, sipping on Fit Aids and teas, trying to write my book and stuff. And Kempson just in the backyard spitting steel all over the house. And dude, I would get so pissed off. There would be metal shavings stuck in the bottom of my feet all the time because he would do his best to clean up. But dude, there's nothing you could do.
But
there's metal shavings.
It was
everywhere.
unprecedented times. I lost my job for a minute, and I've needed a way to make an income, so I started just cutting up metal and welding shit in the backyard. And he's literally looking like he is right now in his poncho and safari hat, complaining that when he walked in my shop, he got metal shavings in his foot. So I was like,
girls go to stripping.
Wear shoes.
To Ben and Steel.
So if you don't want steel in your foot, Johnny would say the same thing. Johnny would come out of the backyard. He'd be like, man, I got steel in my foot again today. And I'd be like, well, don't walk in my workshop with no shoes on.
By the way, his workshop was our yard in a very limited sized house. And all we had was the front yard, which was for ping pong. And what was it?
So when I first started setting up the shop, I made myself a nice workbench, and I have all my tools out in the shed. And every single time I went to work, I would have to set up, carry everything out, set it all up, get the extension cord out. It was an hour to set up all this shit. And then it would snow. and it snowed a lot.
It would collapse the tent, and we would like take brooms.
No, I didn't even have a tent. My like workbench, all my shit would be covered in like 3 feet of snow. I'd have to shovel it off and then start working again. And finally, I got smart enough after like 2 months of doing this to create a tarp structure, which actually worked really well. And I put it like nice canvas, and I had this like, what'd you call it, like a cupola or a bungalow, a pergola, probably a pergola, or dude, that was the best workshop
I've
ever had in my entire life. It was outside in the sun. Fonda, my cat, would just be running around, all the birds chirping, and you could see like the Boulder
Jerry
Mountains.
Was out there blind.
Jerry, our blind neighbor.
Crackheads next door were always making weird noise.
We need to have Jerry on for a podcast. Jerry actually had his own podcast for a while.
By the way, context: Jerry, blind, owns a coffee company called The Blind Bean. Unseen Bean. The Unseen Bean. A master car mechanic. Raised completely blind, can't see anything, was finger banging holes in Katie's scooter and could literally tell you the size of the screw, not being able to see it just by putting his finger on it.
So I was always working in the backyard, right? And Jerry would just talk to me. And one day he asked me what I was building. I was building like this big like rig structure, right, for a competition that was coming up. And he's like, "What are you building?" And I just was like joking. I was like, "I'm building a spy tower." He's like, "A spy tower? What's that for?" I was like, "For spying on my neighbors." And then he goes, "Oh, well, I'm blind." And I was like, "Okay, well, now I feel like a dick." Right? But that like sparked off conversation. And then one day, Katie's scooter was broken, right? Has he told you the story? Dude, so Katie's scooter's broken. And I'm like, I fancy myself a pretty decent mechanic.
We spent 90 minutes trying to fix this thing, by the way.
And it's a scooter. It's like a very simple piece of equipment, right? And so
throttle, 2 wheels, seat.
This is a moped.
A moped, yeah. So I can't get
just
the thing
like
fixed. Next thing you know, like Hunter goes and reaches out to Jerry, and Jerry's like, "Yeah, I'll come over and take a look." He has to literally like hold Jerry's hand, like he's blind as never seen a day in his life.
I, by the way, didn't know how blind he was because when I was walking him, I was like, "How blind is this dude?" He's getting walked by a seeing dog, falls off the curb. It's like, "Fuck, Devin!" Devin's the name of his dog. And I was like, "Oh, damn, this guy's really deaf." So I had to like stay tight with him all the way around to our house.
So blind as a bat. And so we bring him over to the scooter. You know, we're trying to start it up. And literally we have to like take his hand and like guide it down. We're like, okay, that's the fuel filter. There's the gas tank. There's a spark plug. And he literally just within 60 seconds? 60 seconds. Had the thing fired up and running. Wow. Absolutely remarkable.
We spent a night of inhaling gas fumes trying to fix this thing. Him, seconds.
Yeah.
That's wild. My girlfriend's mom started up my moped. It wasn't working. She started up in about 5 seconds. It felt like such a little...
Are you currently a mopeder?
I have one, yeah. It's out of
the cam?
It's out of order right now. I'm trying to sell it to my buddy.
People underestimate how much fun mopeds are.
They're tons of fun, and for some of them, you don't even need a license. You don't even need an M1.
I don't think you need it for any of them.
I think
that's why you kind of assume most people ride mopeds.
You guys want to know my first great Malibu story?
Yeah.
So I got kicked out of a place that I was staying in with my friends because I had done something that was a little bit silly. Don't need to have details. All right.
No questions.
So I come here and they kick me out and they're like, "Dude, you have to go watch the U-Haul until we move into our house." So we were moving to our house like in 2 weeks. So I was just sleeping outside of the U-Haul or in the U-Haul in Malibu while they were all staying in West Hollywood at a hotel. About 7 to 10 days when I did this. What are you looking at?
It's a pretty good story.
Oh, no. So during this time...
The most I've ever been homeless was 2 nights I slept in the woods.
Okay. So during this time, I wasn't homeless. I lived outside of U-Haul. Okay? Very big difference, all right. So during this time, I'm online and I'm looking at Craigslist to find myself a motorcycle because I don't have anything. Mm-hmm. So I buy a Honda Express. It's a 49cc pedal start ignition little moped. Old as fuck, like probably a 1980s, 1970s. I get this thing and I'm riding it all over Malibu. I love it. The guys finally come out and I've been riding around for like a week and I'm having a blast with it. Guys finally come out. Next thing you know, my buddy Andre's driving the thing and I let him, like he's going to drive it and I'm going to drive the U-Haul up the street. And he goes ahead of me and then all of a sudden like 5 minutes later I pull out and I'm catching up to him and oops. All right, we kind of lost it for a second. We back. So check this out. I'll finish the story up quick. So he's in handcuffs.
It actually stopped recording because your story was taking too long.
Yeah, okay.
It was like a natural buffer.
Shut the fuck up. You and your shitty stories. I can't wait to hear yours. You're like, my shop's so cool. Blah, 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 my shop. So,
wow.
Sorry, that was rude.
It was rude.
I'm hurt for you. Okay, so I see him in handcuffs, and obviously, like it was non-road legal moped, and I didn't realize that. And PCH is a highway, so the cops pull him over immediately. They're like, "Where is this? Show your ID." The moped that I bought was stolen, so they freaking they impound it. I lose my moped, and ever since then, never touched a scooter ever again because I'm heartbroken.
You ride mine.
Well, that's just not true because I used to remember you getting in a moped crash this summer.
I know, but that was somebody else's moped, and as you can see, I walked away from the line that I drew in the sand, and look how hurt I got. I almost died. I don't
You
like
came
that
home
story.
and you had grass like shoved down your pants from doing a belly slide through the median of the.
This is like one of the
road.
first dates I ever had with Kate. We were riding our moped, and we bumped into one of our ex-boyfriends, and we were like, oh, let's get out of here. So I just was like hammering it back towards the house, and there was a yellow light, and we were on a downhill, and I was like, can we make it? And she was like, no. And I was like, Ree! And we like came into the intersection, hit the thing, jumped over the curb. She flipped over me. My cock blasted into the dirt and like picked up a bunch of sand. Luckily, I didn't get hurt at all because I'm a fucking stud. Katie was crushed and like all road rashed and stuff. Obviously, luckily her mom wasn't really that upset about it. She thought it was funny. But
the last time I got in a moped accident was about 10 years ago, and I woke up in the morning after a big party, took 3 shots of Malibu rum, very big shots, and then went out, right? It was a hurricane going on when that big hurricane came through Connecticut.
Sandy.
Yeah, and I just kept the thing throttle pinned all the way down like the trails throughout campus until I came across a tree
Puddle?
that had fallen in the thing. Shit. And my friend Jen's moped and just wrecked and went flying into it. You think you can't really get hurt on a moped, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're not going that. I think mine capped out at like 35 or 40
Yeah.
miles.
Well, you
an
get
hour.
that thing going downhill, you can get 40, 45. We gotta get.
We gotta get to our topic. We gotta get to our
It's
topic.
been
Do you want to
a lot of fun.
introduce it? Do you want me to introduce it? Do you want Liam to introduce it? We have to introduce Liam for 2 seconds.
Well, we already did.
Well, listen.
You
One
called
of
me
the
out
top,
for squatting. For
one of the
lack
top
squatting.
strength training coaches. No, I'm just kidding. Soccer coaches in all of
Definitely
Malibu,
kidding.
California, which actually is a pretty stacked field. We got Dinos, we got Ryan Silverman, and we got Thor, and those guys are both 3 power forwards.
Yep.
And you somehow evade them all the time. So next Messi, you said?
Yeah, that's where we're going with that conversation. You're looking at the next Messi right here.
Liam's one of my best friends. Malibu local. Used to front squat 225 for 15. You know that's true.
15?
Yeah, dude. When he cared about life.
Wow,
Something happened between now and then, and I
So
don't want to talk about
were
it.
you front squatting for soccer then?
I was playing semi-professionally in a league called UPSL, but I ended up tearing my groin that season, and that was
From front squatting?
yeah. Hunter gave me a great program, and
Dude, I still would prescribe that program.
No, it was great. It was great.
I'm actually really curious to like how or why front squatting would translate to soccer.
He wanted to get stronger. I wanted to get him like really fucking
Because you
strong.
wanted to be able to kick the ball super fucking hard.
So in soccer, like technique is king. There's no correlation between strength of
That's
like
what
a
I figured.
leg extension or anything.
Yeah.
It's all about the way that you're
Didn't you
striking
wanna
the
get
ball.
bigger, though?
But the higher level that you're playing, the physicality,
Like
is,
just like body, like basketball, like
yeah,
if you're bigger and stronger than someone. you
jockeying
can-
for position, but ultimately, like you look at Spanish players or most of the European clubs or South American, they're smaller and they're just touching the ball away from you, and you're not really getting close to them. But the league that I was playing in, I was one of the smaller players, and physicality was a big part, especially in America. You look at like D1 college programs, and like
Yeah.
you see the 6'2" center backs, just big build. They look kind of like football players.
I mean, Beckham looks great naked, right?
Legend.
But
Yeah.
But you'd rather have. You just farted? Damn.
Nice.
I should
I made an attempt till
You're talking about how hot Beckham looks naked as you're pushing gas at your phone?
there is a strange correlation there. But so
Every time you mention Beckham, you fart? Your butthole puckers? God. Let's try to keep this a PG-13 thing. He's a soccer coach for high school.
All right.
Quit talking about naked Beckham. Okay, so today's topic is going to be about the history of strength training. We talked about booze, we talked about guns. All three of us at this table absolutely love strength training. I'm gonna put maybe a cardboard wall right here.
I was gonna say, good thing you invited me on.
Yeah, okay.
Talk about strength training.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about strength training. I personally, I'll just give you guys my introduction story. I never touched a weight in my life until I was 19 years old. I thought weight training was stupid. I thought it was a waste of time. I used to make fun of kids who are in the gym wasting their life. I'm like, why are you spending all this time in the gym when I'll just be training the sport and I'll whoop the shit out of you anyways, and you're going to be stronger, but you're still going to lose. Doesn't matter how big your muscles are. So I was just like, I hated it. And then one day I picked up a barbell. I put 135 on the bar to bench. I was doing dumbbell curls with 135-pound dumbbell, and I was doing lateral jumps over a couch cushion, something I read in a magazine. And since then, I've never let go. So that's 12 years, 13 years of just hard in the paint.
I was 18, and we did it for ski practice. And it really wasn't, I mean, it was to get stronger, but the more important part was just to put on mass. Because the more mass you have, physics tells you that you can carry that momentum downhill faster and through turns faster. And so it's literally just a way of we squatted to put mass on. That was it.
You?
I think I was around 19 for sure. But I ended up getting a job at a gym with no experience.
Fitness?
Yeah, no experience whatsoever. Just soccer player.
It's kind
interested
of
in
heart
fitness.
got.
What'd you say?
It's kind of heart Lonnie's got.
Yeah, she's willing to take anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any riffraff from the street. So we're going to talk about the history of strength, and we're going to go over some of the most interesting athletes, some of the most interesting feats of strength, and just some of our opinions of it. And we also got questions too. So I'm going to let you take your first notes, and then I'll bring up my second one, and then I'll let you read
actually, no,
too.
it's more appropriate if you start with, because you go like deep into the history.
Oh, you want me to go history?
Yeah, start with,
all right.
What we got, China?
Always start with China. China started everything, by the way. And by the way, if you guys want to know anything about strength training, don't listen to anybody from the U.S. because we don't know shit. We always learn from the Chinese and the Russians. I'm just going to be totally honest. We are so far behind, we got our ass beat constantly. So, Chinese facts. In his examination of Chinese physical culture, Nigel B. Crowworth found that lifting weights, archery, weight throwing, tug-of-war, boxing, and a host of other activities were practiced by the Chinese men of ancient worlds. When it came to lifting weights, Chinese athletes did not disappoint. To display their strength, the regional strongmen lifted rocks and other metal objects and lifted heavy tripods and massive swords overhead or with one hand. One of the abilities to lift such an object would often be linked to their fighting prowess, their virility, and also an indication of their family strength. Stone lifting was primarily one of the ways men would compete in strength competition. That's why we got rocks in the backyard. Obviously, if you can't pick up a fucking rock, what can you pick up? Lifting stone objects were symbolic of important objects and continued well past the ancient period. Zidao's work on history of China, and China found that rural strongmen during the Tang Dynasty of 1618 to 1907 AD would lift stone lions, supposedly weighing up to 1,000 kilos.
That's 2,000 pounds.
Fuck.
Did you say stone lions?
Yeah, dude. Perhaps more realistically, we have also have stories of performed of lifting back lifts with dozens of people on their back.
Yeah,
so what they maybe did, if I had to guess, is probably like what we do is like yoke lifts. Like you put something on your back and then they would stand up a little bit, but not probably full lifts.
That or just like think of deadlifting a 2,000-pound stone lion. You don't have to get the whole thing off the ground. You just have to lift it so that you're really only deadlifting 1,000 pounds. But you're
Still
probably gripping
insane.
stone, what were we talking about, 2,000 years ago?
Do you remember that strength test that Thor did a handful of years ago, which was like something that went back hundreds of years into Icelandic strongman?
Yeah.
It was like he put something on his back and had to travel a certain amount of distance.
Yeah.
And it was like it went through like their logs of times the strongest thing ever done.
Yeah.
And then he beat the record. So I'm assuming it's something like that. He lifted the most weight in history and traveled with it. And I'm assuming these guys did a similar thing.
You probably have to lift the stone lion, and then your firstborn son has to spend at least a minute underneath there before you can put it down.
See, I love this stuff. Like the fact that they say that the amount of strength that you have has something to do with your family's like history and what people consider how strong your family is. That would have made me basically a king. I live in Malibu, and you and I are peasants in Malibu. Your physicality and my physicality back in the day, if we lived in Malibu, we'd be fucking kings.
That's the truth.
Well, it's like
But it's a different age.
in Scotland, they would have like each town would have a stone, and you weren't considered like a man. You didn't cross into manhood from being like a boy until you could lift this stone like in front of everybody in the town.
That's what we're gonna do tomorrow, by the way.
Perfect.
How much does the stone weigh?
I mean, they're still there. So if like you can actually go to Scotland and go on like they do it like a strongman tour where like you can go and try to lift every stone from each town, and they're all different, right? But they're still there because these stones are probably 300, 400, 500 pounds. Some of them.
Are we doing a company trip? You're saying?
Yeah.
It's cool that there's like
dude. I've been wanting to do this for a while.
That's cool. It's cool that there's like a rite of passage for kind of everything. Like even there's I was part of a ceramics program, and we're throwing pottery, right? But they would say they would
throwing pot like
that's what.
Like, well, you throw on the wheel, right? So you take.
I'm thinking of smashing pots, like
working out your anxiety.
I took this class where we just smashed a lot of.
We
pots.
just smash everything. Great. It feels awesome. No, there's there you have the clay, you wet it, and you slice off a piece. You slice off a very small amount, and you make these little pots and whatever. People make mugs, but they would say like, you're not. My dad grew up in this shitty area in San Diego, and they were like, you're not a man until you could throw like the full bag of clay, which actually requires a pretty
it's got
big,
the inertia. It's rotating.
Yeah, because the thing is spinning.
Wait, I'm still not following. When you say throw, you're not like picking up a bag of clay and
throwing is just throwing is just the term of when you put it on the wheel that spins.
It's got so much.
There's no throwing. There's no baseball.
But it's like you have to like use like your core and shit to like control this.
Yeah, so you're usually like stationing your elbow into your leg, and the wheel is spinning and the clay's on it, and you've secured the clay to the wheel. You make it wet, just sticks on the wheel. And you have to lean your body. You start with your hand and you lean in, and then you come over and kind of glaze over the top, and it becomes this perfect circle. But that's called centering it.
But if you're not strong enough or don't have enough, if you don't get enough control,
it won't get centered. It's just going like this, and it's really bumpy.
You have to be able to push into it.
Okay.
But now you're talking about like when I started out as like a beginner, you're throwing this little ball of clay like this big, and they're talking about this big rectangle that's like this big. It's a big deal to be able to throw to center a piece like that. But it's just funny. They're like, these people are like, pick up this rock.
We definitely need a field trip.
Are you saying bigger is always better?
Bigger might always be better. You heard it here.
Okay. Do you guys want to hear about Greece, India, Egypt? All right, Greece, India, or Egypt?
I'm going to say Greece because I love the Greeks.
All right, here we go, guys. Facts about ancient Greece. In ancient Greece, stone lifting, calisthenics, and rudimentary forms of dumbbell training were practiced by soldiers, athletes, patients, and a host of other groups to train their bodies. At 6 or 7, all male offspring in Sparta were required to continue their fitness programs. They thus were required to undergo roughly 5 years of gymnastics, calisthenics, in conjunction with sports and military training. Recreational boxing, blah, 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 blah. The historian Plutarch claimed that the Spartan children were given a hoplon, or a metal shield weighing roughly 10 kilos as part of their training. So that's like the weight vest that we use at Murph. So that's pretty interesting. Like that's
think about trying to hold a 20-pound shit, like literally taking like one of those 20-pound plates, strapping to your arm, and like holding it there throughout an entire workout.
Yeah, dude. Did you see the movie The King? The most that movie is so intense. Have you seen this yet? Mm-mm. Dude, the one scene where they all go into battle with heavy armor and they're like all smashing into each other. That to this day gives me anxiety because I've always wanted to be a warrior, and it made me realize like how weak and helpless you'd feel under all of that armor and trying to fight somebody else, like the close combat. Truthfully, unless you were like,
I think like a full set of chainmail is like
$60.
No, it's over 100 pounds.
Really?
$60?
60 pounds. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm pretty darn sure it's over 100 pounds. Yeah. And that doesn't like, and if you're like mounted, like heavily armed cavalry, you've got all sorts of other gear on, and
you'd be devastated.
You guys want to hear a story?
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. I grew up doing classical Shakespeare, so I've done a lot of plays where I may or may not have been wearing chainmail.
Brought this fucking guy
and
I told you he was a strength athlete.
So my dad's a costume designer, so we would show up to this theater camp every summer, and they come in and they're like, everybody's got to have costumes. There's no costume that's like not good enough for the show.
Classic
so like
theater.
people show up and they're wearing like a fucking, I don't know, like a tablecloth for their cape. Like this is Elizabethan time.
And you got a full chainmail.
And my dad's a designer.
Did you wear a myth
And
veil?
my dad's like, I'll make it from scratch, no problem. And so like I would have the embroidered belt and just like the little tiny. The detail was so immaculate and just
make a mithril
incredible.
Middle East.
And
yeah.
and I was doing a couple. It was King Lear, and I've done a couple other ones where you're in these like big war scenes,
Yeah.
and you're wearing.
So what does it feel like?
My dad's like, we're going all out.
Dude, so like, what
I'm a
does
little
it feel like
kid.
to walk around with
Were
that
you
much
crushed
like,
under the weight?
It was terrible. I'm also like, I think I must have been.
Would you compare it to like a weighted blanket where it makes you feel really comfortable?
Oh, absolutely not. No, but the chainmail isn't as bad as like a sheet of metal, like the actual block. I've worn that once, and that was pretty miserable.
You mean like a knight's?
Yeah, if you
armor?
wear one of those, it's like you're stiff, and there's no.
Imagine like that must have
There's
been
no
honestly been the
mobility.
most ineffective like armor ever, and that it was like full knife.
But dude, you got to think
You
about
gotta
it, dude.
think-
If you're getting arrows shot at you and people are trying to just like stab you and shit.
But like the penetrate, when we were doing the research on firearms, I was like researching like arrows actually have more until like really modern times had more penetrating power
'Cause
than
the weight
most-
behind
than
them?
most bullets. Exactly, yeah. Because
I still think unless you had a direct shot, it would still ricochet off. I would wear that over rather than getting shot. Because they were the idiots that used to sit in battle like this and come at each other like step by step.
Yeah.
It wasn't the way that you and I would fight. Like we'd go around, we'd hide behind trees and shit. Like that's guerrilla warfare.
They were, I mean, like charging was like a very like loose term because you're not running with 100 pounds of mail on you.
Just jogging.
It would just be
There's a
people
trot.
tripping and falling,
Yeah.
and then like just.
Could you
gassed,
imagine being the
completely
one who
gassed.
falls? You're stuck.
No.
You probably
Alright.
can't even get up.
Back to strength. We
Hold on, I gotta
stay
get
on subject
Okay,
here.
so this is interesting. This guy named Milo of Croton. This is how periodization was founded, by the way, based off this story, and I don't know if it's true or not. But basically, in 6th century BCE, an athlete was credited for inventing progressive strength training. While this is a big claim, Milo's own story demonstrated as much. As a young man, Milo dreamed of Olympic glory, and to that end, he repeatedly carried a bull on his shoulders every single day for 4 years. As the bull grew older and larger, his strength increased. His crude strength training was not in vain. Over the course of his athletic career, he won 6 Olympic gold medals. So I didn't mean periodization. It was just progressive strength training. So like there's the approach of progressive strength training where every single time you should every single time you train, you should put on 5 pounds on the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just keep on going up rather than just like maxing out all the time, which is a version.
So like an interesting kind of parallel to that is a reason why people didn't like progressive strength train for the most part back then is because all of the weights that they had to train with were fixed, right? So they could they forged these iron barbells at that time, but it was, you've seen like the old circus barbells where it's literally it's a rod and then 2 just like cannonballs on either end, and they weren't adding plates to it, right? It's just a fixed barbell, and nobody can afford to have, no gyms
5 through hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds exactly. So it's like you have one barbell and that's all you use. So it wasn't the concept of like, oh, I hit a new max today, or maybe you could hit more reps, but your weight didn't change. And it wasn't until I think like late 1800s the Germans started making hollow like globes, right? So like the cannonballs on the end of the bar would be hollow.
You'd fill them with iron shot.
And they'd fill them with iron shot. And then it was actually an American, who is it? I think Alan Calvert in 1902.
Created barbell?
First barbell that you could actually like put new plates on and make progressive increments with it.
I gotta ask you guys, do you think people are stronger today or back in the day?
Honestly, I think back in the day. I really do.
Because, dude, it's pretty crazy.
I think we're better at, like, athletes, right? Like we have more athleticism than people did back in the day now. But I think raw strength I think genetics, right? We've sort of diluted ourselves rather than the strongest, the strongest surviving and the strongest procreating the most.
Every fat person gets their day.
Exactly. Whereas like, a strong king, I mean, like if you look at American presidents, like every president has been over 6 foot, except for are there any that have been under 6 foot? I don't think so.
There's gotta be, dude.
I'm pretty
I bet
sure
you Bush is under 6 foot.
I'm pretty sure like every president's been over 6 foot. But I mean, like descriptions of like George Washington, he was like a barrel-chested, 6'2", 190 pounds, they're like you could line him up against in a lineup with all the rest of the military, and you could pick him out in a heartbeat because he was the biggest, like strongest man there, right? So it's always like the people in position of power
training,
right? So people in a position of power, it's like always been very strongly correlated with strength, and because like those people like Genghis Khan, whoever, are like procreating a ton, making tons of children, and we had a lot more.
So you're saying I should have 100 babies?
Whereas now the gene pool was basically catered towards favored physically stronger people, whereas now we're kind of going like, I mean, who would you say creates the most babies now in the United States? Let's not go into like any third world countries or anything.
Who?
Yeah, so like if you look at like natural, like who's having the most babies, right?
I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this, but low income housing.
I think this is we're gonna stop that conversation right there. Not because it's and then it raises tangent, but I just think that what I'm saying is not gonna add up how I want it to add up.
Strike that from the record.
So
there's occasionally where I talk where I
got something. It's coming.
I get really excited about it, and I'm like, this is going to go down a path that we don't need to go.
Okay. So back to it. You would think that with the science that we have and like the level of studying that goes into strength training, you would hope that today we would have stronger people.
I can get a book right now in my room. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I can get a book right now in my room to show you guys like the old feats of strength. I have this whole book, and I flip through it every once in a while to find out the stuff that you had to do in the military to be part of the military back in the day was insane.
Yeah.
Now there's like safety cards. Like you can play this safety card if you feel like you're being pushed too hard, and I don't think PE is focused on anymore. And like I think more people are trying to push kids to be on computers and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the technology that we have is all technology. Like, truth be told, I'm stronger than I've ever been, but I'm wearing more belts, knee wraps, wrist wraps than I ever have before. Like, I've got so much stuff to make me a better lifter.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm necessarily becoming a better lifter.
Well, I think there's also this concept of like an athlete, right, who trains specifically. Your standard amount of training for an Olympic athlete in a non-endurance sport is about 3 hours a day, right? So every let's say 5 or 6, 7 days a week, 3 hours a day is what your full-time Olympic athlete trains for, right? Dedicated exercise. But if you go back into history, there's a lot of very physically demanding jobs that people did where they were working 10 to 12 hours a day every single day doing like manual labor or some. So a good example is there's a really good book on rum running in the 1920s, right? So like during Prohibition, where they would paddle canoes up from like Vermont up into Canada to get jars of like moonshine, and they would paddle them back, and they were paddling upriver for, it was like 12 hours a day, non-stop paddling, right? They have like 8 guys in a canoe against the current for 12 hours. And like the stories, there would be like in the first couple of days, like your hands would just completely get shredded from blisters and whatnot, and then they eventually callus over, and you could like tell who was a rum runner because their hands were like rocks, right? And they were like their shoulders were massive because like, could you imagine paddling for weeks on end, 12 hours a day? How freaking strong you would be. Like you get on a rower now for like an hour, and you're like, dude, that was a hard fucking workout. Yeah. Like I did a workout that I'm still recovering from, and it was rowing and biking for 2 hours on Sunday.
I'm the softest athlete I know.
Right?
I'm like, I'm gonna watch Game of Thrones on my bike today. I'm such a pussy.
I would say for sure the population is less in terms of raw strength. It's gotta be. I mean, obesity too is I mean, that's a big
And that's I'm
deal.
not even trying to just turn this into like, oh, we're like a soft generation type of thing. I think
Yeah.
it's like, no, that's just a fact that like literally these guys were stronger.
Well, yeah, just
significantly stronger.
their lifestyle just required more
Like
athleticism.
I think if you put, especially like hand-to-hand combat, like anybody from over 150 years ago against any modern like MMA, right, boxer. I mean, if you put Floyd Mayweather in the ring with like someone who just like was like a tough guy from like 400 or 500 years ago,
Probably get the crap beaten out of him.
Mayweather gets knocked.
Just like a drunk dude.
Yeah, exactly.
A drunk dude from the docks.
Yeah. What else you got here?
I mean, do you guys want to get into more interesting facts, or do you want to?
We've kind of got like ancient history a little bit, so like maybe like pull a little bit more modern.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you this much. Some interesting things. Let's just do championships by countries, and this is strongman championships. Now, this is a pretty interesting way of showing.
So would you say that defining raw strength would be better strongman or weightlifting or
Weightlifting's technique and power, I think, and it's insane how powerful these guys are. It's incredible.
powerlifting? Like
I don't think powerlifting, to be honest, like even though it's the most amount of weight moved at one moment, I don't think I think that there's so much gear being used these days and equipment. I'm not impressed as it
the
used to be.
fact that bench press records are being set with what's the shirt,
the super
compression,
suits.
The sleeve,
is ridiculous.
Dude, do you see the amount of distance that they cover? They move their arms out here and then they go, bup, and I'm like,
their
what did
butt's
they just
so
do?
full. Your butt should have to stay on the bench. I'm sorry.
And also, their bellies and chests are so freaking big. I think basically, if you want to set records in bench press from now on,
have to have a massive gut.
you should have to touch your thumbs to your chest and then have to move your arms straight up from there. Because I think this right here takes away range of motion, which I think is such bullshit. Even though if you have long arms, like I think industry standard should be a certain arm length. I also think that also when you see powerlifting squats, the guys put their stance out so big.
Yeah.
Like I don't like sumo deadlifts at all.
Same with deadlifts. Yeah.
Sumo deadlifts is like it's a split deadlift. You're cutting out the range of motion. Whenever I see an incredible powerlifter, I look for the ways that they're trying to cheat the range of motion. And they're trying to cheat the amount of weight that's on them. And it's like, I get that you're moving weight, but it's not necessarily, you're trying to do everything in your power to make this easier on yourself rather than show dominance over the weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, I don't consider that to be cool. Sorry.
Did you watch Nate squat 500 pounds?
Yeah, he just went up and down like a piston.
Like full.
all the way down to the ground.
Yeah.
Past the grass.
Dude,
Bro.
Nate, if he
low
wanted to
as
get
you could go.
if Nate wanted to get into powerlifting right now, he could probably be top 5 biggest
So
best
Nate's
lifters in the United
your guy's
States.
buddy that you guys train with, right?
Nate the Great.
Nate, Nate the Machine.
Nate the Great. Nate against the Machine.
Nate against the machine.
So and he lives right on the hill, right in the canyon, right?
Yep.
And he's what is he like 5'7"?
Yeah.
He's little, right?
Yeah.
But a fucking
Shorter guy.
shit brick house.
Yeah, he is.
Dude is
he is
solid.
a monster.
So what do you think he weighs? 180?
Dude, he was at 190 when he was pumping those numbers. Now he just cut down to 165.
190 squatting 500.
Dude, now he's probably 165 can squat 500.
I think he benched four.
I think he got just under 4.
Just. Okay.
But
This is like all natural,
Yeah.
like no joke, all natural powerlifting, dude.
yeah.
Just straight up Malibu personal trainer.
Grew up soccer player. Shout out.
Strongest dude I know by far in a way that I can tell that he's clean and I can tell that it's just dominant on his lifts, power lifts across the board.
So that's the strongest person you know for pound for pound.
Pound for pound, yeah. Because Chandler's just as strong, and I know Chandler's clean, but Chandler is 35 pounds heavier of lean muscle.
Yeah.
30 pounds. Chandler's like 190 to 200.
I used to work with a stonemason who did like landscaping.
Yeah.
Right? He would just make like rock walls and whatnot. And dude was, I think he was like 58 or something like that. Probably the strongest dude I know. And just had hands like bricks. And spent all day just lifting rocks and putting them down. And then lifting this rock up and putting it down over there.
If you think about that, I'll just tell you guys something. Muscle fibers are broken down and rebuilt. And the idea is that you want to be able to add more tension to these muscle fibers. And that's like how strength's basically used. the more tension you can pull against the levers of everything. Like eventually that's why like muscles will tear and stuff, because the tensions reach too great of a length for the muscle body to hold on to. So you either use maximal force like we were just doing earlier in the gym today to build, like just allow your muscle to respond really quickly, or you just do these little micro tears all day long and get every single one of your muscle fibers, slow twitch and fast twitch, just so insanely strong.
I PR'd my deadlift after I probably, in the 6 months before I PR'd it, I probably deadlifted 3 or 4 times. And I did kettlebell workouts 4 times a week. And it was just, and the heaviest kettlebell I used during that was, probably like 80 pounds, something like that. Yeah. But it's just that repetition again and again and again and again, and the speed. Like we were talking about the bar speed earlier today. It's that acceleration is, I think, more important than anything else. And I just literally just picked up a barbell and I PR'd my deadlift by like 50 pounds.
I may have been stronger as a logger than I am now. Mm-hmm. I could pick up kegs, full kegs, up onto my shoulder and go into parties. I was like, damn. Yeah. Okay, so let's just give you guys some facts. In the strongman world, and a lot of this may have to do with income, so I'm just going to let you guys know that countries that have the availability to this.
But I will say I think it's a more even playing field because the equipment required to do the sport is much lower barrier to entry, right?
Sure. But I'm just saying, so world's strongest man, it goes United States then Iceland. So it's 29 medals versus 21 medals from Iceland.
21 medals from Iceland, who has a population of like 700.
Exactly. So it's very impressive. Yeah. Those people are insane. Now, I'm going to give you guys, this is probably the most startling fact on this sheet. What do you think the country of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 countries are on this list. Which one do you think is in dead last?
Of medals for a strongman?
Yeah.
Canada.
China.
Russia.
Really?
Now, Russia has probably, next to China, has...
all positive with PEDs.
Well, strongman's not tested. So that's why I'm saying an income-based thing. So the USR back in the day used to give you tremendous amounts of money for setting world records or being an Olympic athlete. The better you do, like you get on a stipend, like you get to the point where like you're given a Mercedes type thing. Yeah. You're really taken care of. So these guys back in the day, they realized if I train my hardest and I'm strong, I'm going to Olympic sport and I'm going to be treated like a king. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in strongman for their country. And that's why China doesn't even show.
So there's just no incentive for them.
No incentive whatsoever. That's what I was saying, for finance-based. I think a lot of the strongest athletes in the entire world, football players, just some track and field athletes and stuff, like they realize that they can either make it to the Olympics or the or NFL or something like that. They stay the fuck out of just like these fitness contests because it's like, what's the point of being a world's strongest man guy when I could go get literally a contract from the NFL for $5 million a year?
Rockstar lifestyle, being an NFL player is a lot more enticing than being a strongman, where you have to eat like 7,000 calories a day. And you just constantly
the chicken and waffle diet.
Putting chicken in blenders all day long. Like it's not a very glorious lifestyle for sure.
So let's just go into some of the questions here. Now, I want to go to some questions that people have.
We can wrap through. You how to do the question answers, right?
It's right here.
You got them?
No.
So go to the story. Into where we're asking the questions. Wait. Oh, okay. Back, and swipe up. Take this. And then they're gonna be
wow. All right, let's just rapid fire. I feel like we've answered some things about strength. I feel like you guys have learned about the history of strength a little bit. I wish we can talk more about equipment another time. I wish I brought that in, like we talked more about equipment. But we talked about some of the history of strength and our thoughts on strength.
I had one good thing that I wanted to throw in history-wise, because I always love bringing it back to presidents. And obviously Teddy Roosevelt. We could always talk about him. Dude used to bring a boxer every day into the White House to spar with him, just to like stay physically fit, until one day the boxer punched him so hard that he went blind in one eye and was like that for the rest of his life.
Total dick.
Abraham Lincoln, allegedly, but there's a lot of eyewitness accounts, was having like a strongman competition basically at a bar against this guy. He's like, just challenge him. He's like, I'm stronger than you. And Abraham Lincoln was a badass. Did a lot of chopping wood.
Did he crush the man?
Allegedly lifted a 44-gallon barrel of whiskey up and drank out of it. So 44 gallons
8 times 4 is 320.
360, right? So it's close to 400 pounds.
It's a different time.
8 times 4 is 320, and then 4 times 8 is, so it's 432 pounds. So it's under 440 pounds.
Yeah.
But that's insane.
Yeah.
I could probably not do that.
Right? I mean, you're getting, it's a higher starting point, so it probably wouldn't be that difficult.
You also have to think about the weight of the wood that's the barrel. Add another 50, 60 pounds on there. So we're at 500.
Easily.
I would say, so Teddy Roosevelt cured himself of being like a total bitch. His dad hated him. His dad used to strap him to the back of horses and slap the horse's ass and pry his mouth open and try to cure his asthma like that. He was always just his dad believed in muscular Christianity. He's like, the Lord was a working man. You're going to be a working man. So Teddy had a shit lifestyle.
But eventually, make it a point that we talk about Teddy Roosevelt in every single podcast.
He should be the center. This should be a Teddy Roosevelt podcast. But supposedly he went to a gym and just started doing gymnastics and cured the ailments in his body just by working out aggressively.
Yeah. Yep.
And then he became prez.
All right, questions. What do you got?
All right, here we go. First one goes to Liam. Creatine, if you do you cycle off it when you're tapering?
Yeah. I would say so.
I cycle creatine a lot.
I think you have to cycle creatine.
You do.
You can't just take that
I go
forever.
Like a month or two on,
right?
and then a month or two off.
Yeah.
Studies are actually showing that it's helping people's brain capabilities, helping with Alzheimer and weird shit. So creatine is just something that's naturally should be in your system at all times. Maybe be having high levels of it, which I really am into. Maybe you can cycle on and off of, but that means you have to load again.
When you say high levels,
I'm talking about
loading,
10 grams a day.
Yeah, loading for me is 10 grams a day.
But I hold that for
my cousin Scotty says he's been loading with 20 grams a day.
Is he massive?
Holy moly!
He's probably your size, but minus 15 pounds.
You would never load creatine while you're doing endurance work.
No, I do for sure.
You do
because creatine helps
it's just
you
another fuel
water,
system,
which keeps you from getting dehydrated.
Okay.
All right. How to pull a heavy weight at High Rocks or Spartan for small people?
Wait.
Smallest man in the room?
Wait.
What do you say? Push, pull heavy objects?
How to push and pull heavy objects at a High Rocks or a Spartan race for small people. You being the smallest person who thought he could beat me at a Spartan race before, how did you train for this?
Fuck's sake.
Before he even met me, he was telling everybody in Malibu Fitness, he's like, I'm going to crush Hunter. He thinks he's so cool.
All right, well, I think I deserve to respond to that rather than that fucking question. All right, here's the thing. I'm working at this gym. I'm 20. I'm a very good athlete at the time.
Guy.
And I'm a very good looking guy.
Insanely handsome.
I see Hunter teaching the spin classes, prancing around at Malibu Fitness every day with his ex-girlfriend, who is also an Amazon woman, super buff. And I overhear him talking. He's like, there's this race in Malibu, but I'm not really taking it that seriously. I'm guaranteed to win. And I'm like, that dude's a dick. I'm going to go and show him, right? I'm a big runner. I was the fittest guy on my team for a long time, played college. So I told the other trainers at the gym, I said, there's a race in Malibu. Hunter's doing it. Let's win it. I want to beat him. And so Hunter, you didn't bet me anything. No. Oh, this is what was so fucked up. So I trained with these guys for 2 months before the race.
Yeah. With Hunter and these guys, or your other guys at the gym?
Just trainers at the gym. I don't know if they did the right thing. I'm going to say they didn't.
No training?
But a week before the race, I hear that Hunter's like, yeah, we're doing some extra challenge. Everyone's going to wear a 50-pound weight vest. And if you beat me, you win a fucking car. And I'm like, well.
That happened?
No, it was between Matt Novakovic and I.
Oh, it's just between you guys. Okay.
But if he beat me, we had a bet going.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's what I heard. So I spent 2 days trying to train with a 50-pound weight vest on after never doing any weight vest work
a couple
ever.
days before the competition.
I'm like, there's no fucking way. So then I run the race without it. I think in hindsight, I should have done I don't know how hard you should be training the week of a race.
Nah.
I should have had a deload.
You're just crushing yourself.
Whatever. Yeah, I was crushing myself every day. I got beat without a weight vest on. Hunter beat me with a 50-pound weight vest on.
That wasn't 50. I think it was a 30-pound vest.
30 pound?
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes me feel still pretty shitty.
Well,
and I'm a college athlete, like fucking not some average Joe. Like I was a
stallion. So
smashed.
I guess you kind of answered that question, Kempson.
About how someone of
You
a,
can't call me
of
out
a
and then
smaller,
fucking just let it.
a smaller build would move to heavier implements.
Yeah.
I think you just have to strength train. I think a lot of people who like do Spartan race, like who ask questions like that neglect the fact that like if you are strong enough, then you don't have to strength train. But if you're not, you have to. Like
I started training Luca, and Luca is now like insanely strong.
You don't have to. It's strength is one of those things. It's a skill. So once you learn it, let's say you learn strength, right? You become strong, and then you stop strength training. You will get weaker, but you can get it back quick because it's a skill, right?
Strength is a skill?
Strength is a skill.
You can definitely gain strength back pretty gosh darn
Yeah.
quickly, but you can't like get emaciated. I don't know. Yeah, you just gotta apply.
But it's like a mental thing. So if in the race you have to move a 150-pound ball from here to there, like once you get the confidence and you've done it before and you know you can do it, train to the point where you can lift something heavier than it's in the race. If you're gonna have to do an 80-pound ball in the race, train with a 120-pound ball. You know,
Yeah.
that mental confidence to be able to do it, and then when it comes in the race, you know you can do it.
I always move more weight. Like I don't do any more sandbag carries. I only do like 250-pound sandbag carries on my shoulder or my
Way
chest,
heavier.
and that's 5 times the amount of weight that you see in a Spartan race. How fast will you lose gains if you're still eating well but missing the gym, Liam?
Perfect question for me.
The Candy King.
What gains will you miss?
Will you be missing gains if you still eat well
I
but
think
you miss the
strength-wise,
gym?
it's somewhere around 2 weeks, right, where you start to decline.
Yeah. What would you say though?
Yeah, I'd say you have to train.
You
for
have
sure.
to?
Yeah.
Liam-
You can't just eat. You can't just eat right and be like, yeah, I'm an athlete.
Some people can. Some people are genetically gifted and can.
Okay,
It's
I take
pretty
it back.
insane, dude. Like when
take
I
it
see
back.
like the homeless people down at like Venice Beach and they're just like shredded to the bone and they're just drinking vodka. I'm like, damn it. I don't know why I spend so much time in the gym.
Yeah, but for the average person, you gotta train.
I know. I would totally agree. You got to be in there. I would say the absolute minimum is probably 2 sessions a week, and you can keep what you have. What does a week look like in order to build strength, but stay fast?
Ooh, that's like is the golden question. We've all been trying to answer that for years, and I think it's about an equal balance between about 3 strength workouts and 3 running workouts a week.
Yeah,
Right?
I love 3. I love 3. 3 is the magic number.
And the crucial thing for me is staying away from high reps of barbell squats or barbell deadlifts, and just in general keeping the strength lower reps, right? Because I could do 90% of max for let's say 9 reps in a workout, and I would feel way better than if I did 50% of max for 50 reps, right? It's just like that. It's too much wear and tear on your muscle fibers.
Yeah, I'm starting to change everything up, but I think if you want to, hopefully, if you're smart, you build like a periodization thing and you go 5 days a week, 4 days a week, 3 days a week, down to 2 days a week. And the more endurance you're trying to build, the less strength that you do, but you have to start the season off with lots and then dip all the way down. Yeah.
What do you think about adding? I used to do plyometrics in between strength training sets as like that was my like bro science way.
That helps a lot.
I mean, it's volume.
That's part of
It's free volume.
Cal Dietz Trivasic training. He does a lot of that stuff. Like he'll have you do like bench press, and then you'll have you do
Like seal push-ups.
extremely past plyometric push-ups,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So it's basically just muscle activation. You're trying to move your body through time and space faster. So then all of a sudden, when you apply weight, you try to keep the same momentum.
That sounds like a golden answer.
Sounds like you're a genius.
Dang.
I think we should go out on that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so wrapping it up, where are you off to next? What do you got going on?
I'm in California for work for a couple days, and then I'm heading back home, and I'll actually be in California again next week, but NorCal.
And then you're going to come down to the Casa.
You're closing on your house when?
Wednesday.
Okay. You got so you got a hot tub. We got a guest bedroom.
I'm going to turn the mini cabin into a sauna.
Are there any deer heads on the wall?
No, we're going to kill them.
We'll change that around with the rat cannon.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
What about you?
What am I doing this week?
You want to tell the people what you're up to, where they can find SoCal Soccer Performance?
Wow. That is
Liam Anderson Performance?
That is not that's not my business name, but yeah, Malibu High School's got a soccer game tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Woo!
Coach
Actually,
Liam.
one more thing I do want to mention. I will be spending
the other day. How'd that game go the other day?
Canceled. It's so crazy. High school sports with COVID. They cancel culture, yeah. But they'll just cancel things for no reason. There's no spike in numbers or anything like that. No. We just have a we have a game set. It's been there for a long time.
What are you gonna do?
3 hours before the game, they're like, "Yep."
Yeah.
I should start canceling meetings and stuff.
When I go back, I get back probably Wednesday or Thursday, and I'm gonna spend like 3 or 4 days working on an obstacle I'm designing for this race called Hilderbot, which is May, I believe, 23rd, 24th down in Jacksonville. And it's probably going to be the most competitive, pure obstacle race of the year since COVID started. So check it out for sure.
What's it called?
Hilderbot. It's like some Norse mythology name or something like that.
Okay. That's the way to roll. That's marketing.
I'm going to test this out. I saw someone do this on a YouTube channel. So I want to see how many people are actually watching. I'm going to Venmo one person $250 who comments below. I've seen another
What's
YouTube
the secret
channel.
word? Secret word. They got to
it?
comment a secret word.
Yeah.
And if they comment it, you can pick from the...
2.5 bills for all the thrills.
No, that's not a secret word.
That's a password.
You can't have something
platypus.
that's so obvious that
Platypus.
everyone's going to do it.
Pickles?
Pickles with just the K capitalized.
Yeah. Pickles with just the K capitalized, okay? If you do that, I'm going to pick one of you guys, and I'm going to Venmo you $250. But you have to subscribe, you have to comment below, and you have to like this video. If you've done all three, you're not getting that pickle money. We're out.